Austin, good to see you. I mean, not see you, but like it's good. It's nice that you're present. Leon, you too.
Yeah.
How's Okay, I think Austin's got a bit of a cold.
Oh. Yeah. I'm a little sick, but after you showed us up, by the time you showed up with your voice sounding like a cat fucking a blender, I don't think any of us could ever use the excuse of being sick.
No, I mean, like, you can. If you're not feeling well, that's fine.
No, it's not.
My voice that day, I was in, like, no pain. I'm dead serious. Zero pain. Absolutely none. It sounded as though my voice had run off on holiday with perhaps, say, my sense of good taste, which would explain things. But, yeah, so, I mean, if you're unwell, Austin, then...
I'll make it. We got to fucking unload on Aliens Colonial Marines. They are not getting away with this.
Was that what made you sick? I gotta know. You start to feel a little nauseous about an hour in? Because let me tell you, I started to have some reactions last night.
Holy shit. The first Xenomorph, the game lost it for it. It completely went apeshit. If you follow one of the guys from Penny Arcade on Twitter, he tweeted the same exact glitch. He filmed it, the same one I got, where the Xenomorph just would not react to being shot. It just stood there and was like, it was just like, I don't want to interact with you. Leave me alone.
An emo morph?
Yeah.
Man,
I think
just it's so hard being an alien. Just leave me alone. God.
Oh, jeez.
You gonna be all right, Austin?
Hopefully. This week's the Leon cast, remember?
Is it the Leon cast this week?
Yeah, we gotta do more Leon than ever.
It is the Leon cast this week.
My phone's ringing. Hold on.
30% more Leon.
30% more Leon.
Or your money back.
Although,
you didn't pay for it.
The mathematics on 30% more Leon is pretty slim when, if like last week there was like practically zero Leon, because 30% of zero is really not that much more Leon at all. Very little Leon, actually. But it's a good thing we had Leon in last week's show, because 30% more Leon. All the Leon. The full Leon. Which I am now going to draft up diagrams as a title for a sex position. The full Leon.
I don't no. don't whatever you just said, don't.
None of that.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I could, here's what we're gonna do, right? Okay?
You stop right there.
I may or may not draft diagrams for a sexual position called the full Leon, alright? Okay? If I do or if I don't, alright? Okay? I'm not gonna tell you. So that maybe if I do, in like 5 years' time when you're browsing around the internet and there's this total full Leon craze going on, you'll be like, did he? No. Can't have been.
Okay, I got a couple of things. First, do sex positions come in crazes? Are there sex position fads that I was not aware of?
I imagine so, yeah. I mean, I'm fairly certain.
Do they sweep the nation?
Yeah, like some people all of a sudden start doing the monkey dance, and then but also anal.
Yeah.
This is like the Macarena and reverse cowgirl.
Right.
Everybody is 50 Shades of Graying it. I mean, you look me in the internet eye, all right? And you tell me that you don't think that after reading that book, some very unfulfilled women got some very explicit ideas about things to try.
Post 50 Shades of Grey sex must be like the saddest thing ever.
Probably.
Because it's probably nothing like they imagined, and everything is sadness and regret.
There are a few things in this world more awkwardly pitiful and comedic, depending on like where you are in the interaction, than two people who have absolutely no idea what they're doing, trying to get into like light bondage culture.
I'll take your word for it. Wait, I had a second point there. I lost it. Oh. What could the full Leon possibly be? I feel like all the sex positions are taken. There's only so many ways the human bodies can connect.
I'm assuming that some form of suspension is going to be involved.
A harness?
Yeah. Yeah. Possibly a saddle. Maybe a quart of canola oil. I'm thinking that some form of pyrotechnics are going to need to be involved. These are just rough ideas that I'm just throwing out here. Right now, I mean, this is an extremely complicated process, vetting one of these, you know.
Well, that's the full Leon. Is the half Leon like 2 sparklers and a bottle of lube?
Possibly, yeah. I think we could have a half Leon, or maybe a quarter Leon. It would also bring great new subtext to the band Kings of Leon.
Warren Spector also said some questionable things at DICE, but it wasn't. His seemed like he is just old and doesn't know what he's talking about now. Like he's out of touch, as opposed to David Cage, like just genuinely seems like
batshit crazy.
Yeah,
like he doesn't even fucking understand like what goddamn industry he's working in.
Yeah, either he has like some kind of weird delusion about what's the state of everything, or like he suffered a head injury, and then I'm gonna feel really bad about talking all this shit about him.
The bit where he's like, finally, we have a chance to become a mass market. I'm like,
yeah.
Whoa.
He's like, only if games do exactly what I'm doing will we ever achieve any measure of success and popularity.
Yeah, we'll only start making real money if. That sounds like somebody should make a movie trailer for that. A games industry that is dominated by only one man, David Cage.
I have things to say. I want to save it for the thing, because...
In the grim future, one man has an iron hold on an industry that no one could possibly break free. My name is David Cage. I like video games. Until one man... I'm gonna take this fucker down if my name isn't Cliff Bleszinski! Moves ahead in a secret plan. What do you mean, Peter Molyneux? I mean, he's got all the games, Cliff. I don't know. Like, if you had to make an action movie about a bunch of game designers trying to take down David Cage's like totalitarian vision of what the games industry should look like, who would you put in it?
See, now that needs to actually be a thing. Like, it'd be so fucking niche. Like, the 12 people who would actually get it would love it.
I get the feeling that Cliff Bleszinski would be the guy. I think the only game developer that has enough charisma to, like, carry that.
And then Suda51 would be like every movie Christopher Walken's in where he shows up for 5 minutes and like steals the whole thing and then leaves.
Yeah. He just like shows up and it's just like, yeah. And everybody's like, who is that guy? He's awesome.
And he just rides off into the sunset.
Away he goes.
Reggie would be in the background of every scene making faces.
I'm ready. I read the thing. David Cage can bite my butt twice. So I'm totally ready to talk about it.
One or twice in the same place? Because
twice in the same place.
Ladies and gentlemen, please. I'm sorry, I need a moment. Welcome to another and a final edition of the Popecast, where myself, your host, Johnny Maloney, and my co-hosts, Austin Yorsky and Leon Thomas, pay tribute and homage to perhaps the most rock and roll Pope the Catholic Church has ever seen. I'm sad to say that this is going to be the final edition of the Popecast, because Pope Benedict XVI is stepping down. And to kick things off on this final edition of the Popecast, I'm going to ask my co-hosts to join me in a carousing a cappella rendition of Sarah McLachlan's I Will Remember You. Austin, if you'll kick us off, please.
Yeah, Austin, go. Do it.
Do you guys know about Bartandalus, the space pope?
I will remember you. Na-na-na-na, will you remember me? Na-na.
I'm gonna kill you, Johnny.
Lyrics for the rest of this song. I couldn't be bothered to look them up on Google for a joke. All right,
Johnny.
Yeah.
Do you know about the space pope?
What space pope? Is this
the final?
Is it like a Scientology thing?
No, I wish it was. The final boss of Final Fantasy 13 is the space pope.
Seriously?
He's the villain. It's great.
That's fantastic.
I thought you meant like the space pope from Futurama, the crocodile.
Is that a thing too?
Yes.
Awesome.
Space Pope. Did you ever? Never mind.
I've seen a lot of Futurama. I just must not have seen that episode.
That's the best character that's barely in it. The Space Pope is a crocodile.
I had a problem. I had a problem watching Futurama when they were still airing. I know that they aired like new episodes recently, but when it was first on TV, they were airing it. They moved it around willy-nilly. I didn't actually get to watch like most of Futurama until it went into syndication, and it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I wake up on the couch in my underwear, covered in jam and honey, and being like, "Where am I? Oh, Futurama, sweet." So there's a lot of. The moral of the story is there's a lot of Futurama that I haven't seen. Now, come on, I will. All right, no, I'm not going to do any more of that song.
Too bad we couldn't get like the actual Pope on the Pope cast, because I feel like that would have been better than Johnny singing.
Are you the Pope come on this nickel and dime operation? We'd have to get at least one pontiff on here beforehand.
Oh.
You guys know the Pope has a Twitter account, right?
Yeah.
He started it 2 months before quitting.
He is like the most rock and roll Pope ever.
Wouldn't it be great if Twitter broke him? If that's why he's stepping down. It's like he just walks into the Vatican, he puts on his Pope hat, and he's like, man, I just the world is just blessed by God, and then he just turns on Twitter. It's like, no, everything's wrong. There is no God. I'm leaving at the end of February. No one does that, by the way. Apparently, and I'm not the foremost expert on Pope stuff, but apparently, and but popes don't do that. They die in as pope, and that's it. It's been like
true story.
It's been centuries.
He's only the second pope to willfully leave office. I don't blame him either, because if I woke up and like there was a knock at my front door and I went downstairs and someone was like, "Oh, hey, we want you to take control of the Catholic Church," I'd be like, "Hang on, I just have to go hang myself." Because what you have right there is a mess that no one's gonna clean up, and I'm not taking the blame for it.
Okay, how many people did we just really seriously offend? Do we care? Are we worried?
I'm not going after the Catholic faith. I mean, like I'll go after religion and just be like, oh, but I'm like when we're talking about the difference between the faith and the actual organization of the church, because they are distinct. Yep. They're different things. The church is in such a fucking mess right now. The only way they're going to fix it is by firebombing.
I'm just saying.
I should clarify themselves, not other churches.
I'm just saying, somebody clicks like, oh, video game podcast. I wonder how the new video games are. And then you're just like, we should firebomb a church. And then people are confused, maybe a little angry.
I didn't say we should firebomb a church or you should firebomb a church. I'm saying that the only reasonable outlet they have now to get out of the hole that the Catholic Church has dug themselves into is immolation. That's it.
I'm just saying, after some creative editing, you will have said that.
Very possibly.
So
maybe the Pope was just trying to get out of office to avoid his fate of being thrown down a shaft by Darth Vader.
I assume that he's just tired of all the responsibility.
Survival of the fittest Pope? Is that what it is?
You feed him to the Rancor?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
So speaking of I'm trying to transition to David Cage from the Pope. How do you do that, guys?
Very easily. You go, speaking of the Pope, David Cage is thinking very highly of himself again.
Okay.
Because
speaking of people who think they're God.
Yeah. If we were to actually, knuckle down and try and claim video games to be a religion, and be like, okay, who wants to be in front? I get the feeling it would be a bare knuckle boxing match between David Cage and Peter Molyneux.
I don't know what kind of positions we would have in our administration for them, but I feel like maybe Miyamoto gets to be president.
I don't think he would go for it, though. That's the thing. I think that Miyamoto would actually be like, "Are you kidding? I just want to make games, guys. Would you leave me alone?"
That's true.
But David Cage and Peter Molyneux, or people of his ilk, always seem as though they are trying to deliberately manipulate the direction of the industry, as though, their vision is exclusively the only thing that stops video games from dropping into obscurity.
Yeah, they've got it figured out and everyone else is lost.
Yeah. So, on that note, David Cage. Well, for those of you who I guess, pay a little bit more attention to the industry than those who just, like to sit down and play games. You may have noticed that DICE just happened this year, which, is mainly, like, I wouldn't say mainly video game focused, but it plays, like, a huge part, at least industry-wise. It's not really about, like, games in the way the GDC or E3 is about games, but sort of like high-concept gaming convention, if you will. We had a couple of interesting speeches from some people. J.J. Abrams and Gabe Newell took the stage together and said that they were working on a video game project together, as well as a film adaptation of a Valve video game intellectual property.
Which, by the way, we fucking called accidentally, like, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Kind of fucked up.
We accidentally got the exclusive story about the Half-Life movie by being asses.
Yep.
So.
Yep. We had a talk from Randy Pitchford as well. The speech that we're going to be focusing on chiefly in this podcast comes from everyone's favorite pretentious French dick, David Cage. Now, if you're not familiar with the name David Cage, I know you are familiar with at least one of his games, if not more, because we've talked extensively on the podcast about Heavy Rain. Other games include Indigo Prophecy, also known in Europe as Fahrenheit. Actually, it was originally supposed to be known as Fahrenheit, but then they had to change the name in the States because people, Omicron, the Nomad Soul, starring, like, no motherfucker other than David Bowie, right? So, yeah. David Cage had some very choice words for the games industry, and I'm just going to go ahead and read them right here. He said, and I quote, "It's time to reassess who we are and what we are doing. Someone who is anxious at the idea of growing up and becoming an adult, and who actually refuses to grow up. And that's quite a bold statement to make about an entire industry." So, David Cage, it's his opinion that video games need to do some serious growing up.
Leon, do you want to hit this first, or should I take this?
Don't take away my Mega Man, David Cage. I don't know what you think you're doing, saying that we have to grow up. No, I'm sorry. Games are a diverse product. I mean, there's games not just for kids, but also for adults who want to play a sort of cartoonish game. There are kids who would like to play cartoonish games, but also might want to dabble in more, I'm using finger quotes here, mature stuff. And I just don't understand this idea, like, we all need to grow up for the industry to be saved, when the industry is massively successful. I mean, there are a few companies that are in trouble right now, but it is a gigantic worldwide phenomenon. It is not something that is struggling because of some sort of alleged childishness. And I'm not just talking about in monetary terms. It's also getting better and better with time, and not just technologically, but with new ideas. And it's not because of games have to become more mature and more adult and more, weeping at autumn leaves kind of games. I think he's kind of got his head up his ass a little bit, and that's kind of how I feel.
It's one thing to say that we could use a couple more mature games, that I have no problem with the sentiment that we could use some more RD games. That's one thing. What really gets, like, to the heart of me here is the sheer hypocrisy of his speech, where he basically says, "Oh, all the publishers rejected me because my games didn't have guns or cars." It's like, did you play Heavy Rain, motherfucker? There's a car chase, and there's shooting, and there's a guy who cuts his own finger off. Like, your games are violent and exploitative just as much as anything else in the market. You're not some, like, unique, special snowflake. And I'm someone who fucking defends Heavy Rain every time we bring this up. But he makes me so mad.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, yeah, you know what? I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, I mean, Heavy Rain is really a really violent game. It's rated M for mature, but not just because it's for mature intellectuals, but because it's fucking violent. And you murder, you get murdered, and you murder people, and sometimes you're in control. Spoilers here. Sometimes you're in control of a murderer, and sometimes, I mean, it's a pretty it's not a shoot 'em up in the same way that Call of Duty is a shoot 'em up, but you're still shooting things up.
Yeah, it's also like manipulative in certain ways. Like the whole opening scene with press X to Jason, that whole thing is like. That way you would get laughed at if you wrote a book or made a movie with that kind of opening scene. It's so predictable. Like I don't know. I feel like he thinks he's reached like some kind of magic maturity nirvana, but it's shocking to me to see the things he creates and then compare them to what he says, because I think another quote was that all these games exist in some kind of magic land that's like divorced from reality. Like, he wants to make down-to-earth games, right? It's like, your protagonist had magic blackouts. Did you play Indigo Prophecy? The last third of that game is batshit insane.
Yeah, it devolves pretty, thoroughly, completely. It loses all traction in any kind of reality whatsoever.
And his new game is about, psychic Ellen Page. How grounded in real emotion and feeling is that? We've only showed a little bit of it, but she's, flipping police cars with her mind. Once again, car chases.
Yeah.
Something he is above. Wasn't there a car chase in Indigo Prophecy?
I'm pretty sure there was, yeah. I mean, if there wasn't a car chase, there was a flying scene where you get into a fist fight with a dude, on the side of an orphanage wall. This isn't even he forgot he did this. He's this is lying. He's just basically lying about what he's done and what he compares it to. And there's some people, when he made the speech, there was a video going around. It was some of the bonus content from Indigo Prophecy of him dancing on he was basically grind dancing on one of the female characters. It was a maturity. It was just I can't even get my mind around half the things he says, but this one is just you are objectively wrong. You want to talk about some serious batshit crazy stuff, because I think I'm the only one of the three of us that's actually played Omicron: The Nomad Soul.
The David Bowie game.
The David Bowie game. Omicron: The Nomad Soul starts under the pretense that you, as the player, are transferring your soul into a character in the video game. He pops out of this portal on your black desktop after you load up the game, and he's like, "Oh my god, you have to help me. I need your soul." And it's okay. And then he's like, "All right," and he puts his hands up to his head. He's like, "Okay, it's done. I got your soul now. All right, now we have to go back to my world and fight some dudes. Yeah." And then you go back to this dystopian future, and you discover that the video game is actually a trap. That one of the characters in the game actually lives in an alternate dimension, and he uses a video game called Omicron: The Nomad Soul to steal the souls of innocent human beings. Yeah, that's some grounded reality right there.
Also, another thing is, we're on the topic of David Bowie. One of the things he said in his speech, he basically gave a list of things he thought all developers should do. And we should point out that DICE is for developers
a list. I think we can go ahead and call it. It has sufficiently reached crazy enough levels on the batshitometer that it's a manifesto.
Yeah, he basically went Unabomber on that speech. But yeah, I mean, he was telling other developers in the audience that they shouldn't include violence. There's just no violence in any games. Once again, completely fucking hypocritical. But even worse was, speaking of David Bowie, when he was talking about how his games are so special because he brings on Hollywood talent like David Bowie and Ellen Page for his upcoming game. It's
well, David Bowie was in Labyrinth.
But I'm saying,
he did do a magic dance.
He did.
And I'm just going to ask everybody to take a moment and remember the codpiece. Continue, Austin.
Is that what video games aspire to occasionally guest star movie stars? Is that literally the pinnacle of achievement for this medium? Is that what he's saying?
That is the lowest common denominator.
That's the dancing bear.
It's exactly. It's my game is amazing because there's someone that you may find familiar in it. I'm not gonna go after Ellen Page or go after David Bowie. I happen to think that they're both very talented individuals in their field. But to say that my game is incredible because I brought someone on who's famous.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things we can talk shit about on his games, like all the quick time events and the poor writing and stuff. But the voice acting and stuff, that's not really a big flaw in most of his games. So
not even a flaw in most games.
Yeah, but
like it's hardly, and this is like as if he has a monopoly on famous people in games. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, because Call of Duty hasn't been pulling celebrities on, and neither has Bethesda. Like every time they get a brand new fucking open world game, they can't wait to spill the beans about Patrick Stewart being in our game, or Liam Neeson being in our game, or like Christopher Plummer, or anything. Yeah, I'm sorry, David Cage, you don't actually have a monopoly on famous people participating in your game. In fact, I would say the rate at which you put games out puts you in the minority of people who actually have famous people in their games.
Yeah, I think that right there you kind of hit upon the critical issue. He seems disconnected from what he's talking about. He's observing an industry that does not exist, or at least only exists in his mind.
That's the only explanation for it. The only explanation. There's he can't. He must be frustrated. He can't figure out why his games aren't selling like Call of Duty numbers. I got a great idea, Dave. Can I call you Dave, Mr. Cage? I got a great idea. Here's what you have to do. Because you want to make a movie so much, you need to go visit with people like David Lynch and Darren Aronofsky, Terry Gilliam, more recently Nicholas Winding Refn, very talented directors who have good bodies of work as movie directors. And I want you to look them right in the eye, like good eye contact, and ask them why their movies don't sell the same as fucking Michael Bay's Transformers Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, that's not a video game specific problem. Like mass market appeal is always gonna be a thing. Like what is he's bitching about? He actually here's it was like a PowerPoint he had behind him during the speech, because I sat through this because I'm an idiot. He had a chart of like the best selling games of the year, and he's like, see, of these games, like 80% are Nintendo, and that's one genre. Like Nintendo is a fucking genre.
Nintendo is a genre now?
He said that. He's like, there's half of them are sports. All these other ones are violent.
Fucking,
violence.
Okay, sorry, sports. All right, fine. So yeah, violence. There we go.
But he basically, bro, he's like, you can tell there's no innovation because of the best-selling games, this section is sports, this section is violence, and this section is Nintendo. We only have 3 genres. Why don't people make emotional games about fucking whatever the hell he wants to do?
Meanwhile, Game of the Year awards are going out like crazy to games like The Walking Dead and fucking Journey.
Yeah, did you miss all the entire indie game revolution that happened? Especially with his focus on photorealistic graphics, it makes him seem like he has absolutely no grounding in the kind of things that are going on right now.
That's the only explanation I have. He's frustrated and disconnected, and he doesn't understand why it's not happening. In the first place, I don't even know what the fuck he wants to happen.
He wants all games to be about feeding your kid dinner and then watching women pee, apparently, from the opening of Heavy Rain.
Well, then, his problem is, that just causes the same problem he's complaining about, homogeneity.
Well, yeah, here, I wasn't even going to say it. I want to quickly bring up another speech that happened, which was Warren Spector of Deus Ex and Epic Mickey fame, where he said, among other things, that he thought video games need to grow up as well. It was kind of a similar point they had, but he went on to say specifically that he didn't think Lollipop Chainsaw should have been made. He thinks it's damaging to the industry as a whole for that to be made. To which I said, I love you, but fuck you, because we need schlock as much as we need high art. We need everything. Yeah. Who would want an industry of only one kind of product? That's ridiculous.
To make that statement about Lollipop Chainsaw 2, I mean, pardon me for not playing it, but I believe the old adage of, if you don't get the joke, the worst thing that you can do is say, I don't get it.
Yeah, video games, it's such a diverse genre. It has such diverse genres in it. You can't say we can't have this type of game in gaming anymore. There's sort of room enough for all of it. It's like saying there can't be horror movies anymore because everyone wants serious dramas. And it's like, well, yeah, I prefer serious dramas too, but I also sometimes want a horror movie, and I also sometimes want this and that, and video games can't. You can't say. I'm sorry. I'm sort of getting mad at myself just talking about this. But you can't say you can't have that game. You can't say you can't have this genre of games. You can't say you can't have this style of games. It's so that is damaging to gaming, because that's taking away not only monetarily valuable, but even potentially creatively valuable products.
And this question needs to be asked. Who are you to say what's damaging to the industry? Like what is damage?
You know what was damaging to me was Epic Mickey 2. Warren.
Oh snap! Bird, son,
sad.
do you need some ointment for that?
Well, he put the studio out of business.
Yes, I suppose it did, actually.
I'm just saying, I love Deus Ex, but here's another thing. When it comes to like pretentious windbags in the modern video game industry, you got your Jonathan Blow, you got your David Cage, your Molyneux, maybe your Spectre. I don't know. That was just one comment he made among a bigger speech that was better.
I don't believe that Warren Spector has opened his mouth large enough
to insert
enough times to be able to fit his footwear inside it. But
yeah. But here, a kind of a pattern I've noticed is no one seems to care / acknowledge Japan as half of the goddamn industry. Mm. Like, they seem incredibly focused on AAA Western development, which is a relatively small part of, or, in sheer volume of games released. If you're only focused on the God of Wars and the Halos, you're going to miss quite a bit of the innovation that's going on.
Yeah. It stands to. We have to acknowledge that I believe that the Western culture recognizes gaming a lot more differently than they do in Japan, where I believe Japanese culture has pretty much accepted gaming as existing and being a thing that is good for the economy and is a socially acceptable hobby, and they just kind of let it happen. I feel that a lot of Western gaming culture is very much like, take us seriously, you guys! And every time anybody takes gaming seriously and is like, you can shoot hookers in Grand Theft Auto, they're like, oh, no, it's not like, no, not like that.
Johnny, it's funny you say that, because before we had this podcast, I was considering just writing an editorial about this story, and the header image I was going to use was the Arrested Development's Wizard Society. We demand to be taken seriously.
We demand to be taken seriously. No, absolutely. And it's, to insist that video games need to grow up, or that we need to be taken seriously, or that there's even to release a bad movie is not damaging to the movie industry. To release a subpar book, like, the Twilight Saga, that's not damaging to books. It's not like, Hemingway's rolling over in his grave. It's not like Oscar Wilde is like, no!
Yeah, first of all, let's just... Lollipop Chainsaw, we gotta recognize, is its tongue is so far into its cheek that it threatens to burst out the other side. So it's not even, like, actually exploitative trash. But even if it was, it would not negate the high art we've achieved. Bastion would not cease to exist if Lollipop Chainsaw was a disgusting, deplorable game.
Yeah. It honestly has gotten to the point in time right now where I don't think that you can, quote unquote, damage the industry. You can have, really controversial titles, or titles that parents don't want their kids to play, or titles that, people on Fox News or people in Congress or the Senate are going to, blow up about like crazy because they heard from a guy who knows a dude that had a nephew whose best friend had it, for one night that they rented from and his son's brother's cousin's math tutor played a game and was like, yeah, you can shoot a hooker in it. They're like, oh my god, you get points if you shoot hookers.
Because we still use points.
Yeah, meanwhile, we're all sitting over here going, points?
Yeah.
I'm
of the opinion.
Are you gonna get the high score? Is that?
I'm of the opinion that if the film industry can survive Cannibal Holocaust, we'll be fine.
Or Human Centipede 2.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, I was thinking of something earlier, more in a more formative era. But I'm just saying, just disgusting, fucked up shit will not kill an entire medium. And if you're gonna target something, Lollipop Chainsaw is like relatively inoffensive if you actually sit down and play it, which I doubt Spectre did. I love you, Spectre. Don't hate me.
It's, you know, the problem is that we have to be able to recognize that the medium is not the message.
Yeah.
You know, that each video game does not speak for all video games. And it is indeed this way for everything. For every collection of people who are all doing the same thing, be it like, you know, people who all work at the same company, be it a bunch of people who all play on the same sports team together, be it, you know, even like a group of churchgoers, you know. Like, I mean, to say Christians and then assume that the Pope, to reference, you know, a topic that we raised earlier in the episode, that the Pope speaks for all Christians is inaccurate. It's not even accurate to say that the Pope speaks for all Catholics, you know? So to suggest that Lollipop Chainsaw, or because Call of Duty does really, really popular with, you know, the mothers buying presents for their kids crowd, and for the people who just want to spend, like, 30 minutes to unwind and test their reflexes against other people online when they get home from work or school, it doesn't make the industry now suddenly less. It's just another voice in the signal. It's another message in the stream. And the more diverse that stream is, the more that we can actually have discussions and have input and stimulus that come from different walks of life and different areas and aim to do different things, even if those things are geared at like the lowest of the lowest common denominators, it just makes the industry richer.
Yeah, I think good job. You nailed it. Bam. Boom. Done.
That said, you know what? I mean, I'm sorry, but Cage says a couple of other things that I want to talk about.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Hit him.
He goes at one point in time, I mean, he starts talking about the viability of the video games market. And one of the points that he makes is he starts talking about the observance of people who don't game from the point of view of people who do games.
Yeah, because anecdotal evidence for him suggests that he is the only one who plays video games.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah, and the only one above the age of 20, apparently, as well, which is a complete falsity. The average gamer, the age of the average gamer is, like, well in his 30s at this point in time. His or her, excuse me, I shouldn't be so exclusive. But so, yeah, well into their 30s at this point in time. And the quote that he has right here, think about your friends who don't play. Think about your parents. Do they play console games? Most of the time, they don't play video games. David Cage, what the fuck do you know about my friends and family? Like, okay, fine, you know, maybe your mom and dad didn't play video games. Maybe my mom and dad don't play video games. But, like, you know, what do you know about your fucking friends? My friends.
And that's just also, even if it is like true anecdotally for him, that's just a generational thing. Like, you know, I'm sure in 1910, people, you know, there were parents out there who were skeptical about the whole talking pictures thing. But
think about your parents. Do they drive these newfangled automobile cars?
Like, it'll happen. Davey, calm your shit.
It is completely, it's asinine to go after a gamer's personal experience. You don't know about my friends. You don't know about my parents. I know people whose parents game, and it's not revolutionary or anything like that. I've got a lot of friends right now that are having kids who play fucking video games. And it's like, yeah, guess what, Mr. Cage? You're clawing onto this, like, old idea, pardon me, that video games are for the youthful, that they're only for the young, that they only need to be sold to teenagers. You know what? Teenagers don't actually have any spending power. So when a game gets released and it gets, like, pre-ordered like crazy, like we're talking millions and millions of copies, I can pretty much guarantee you that those dollars that are passing hands are not because of teenagers.
Yeah, especially because his whole gripe was with violent games, which are, I would imagine, M-rated, like Call of Duty. You can't even pre-order those unless you're 18 to begin with.
Yeah.
Also, I think I just figured it out. David Cage is a time traveler from the late 80s. He just showed up and he's like, guys, we got to knock this Pac-Man shit off. It's enough of this. We got all the points. Time to move on.
He Rumpelstiltskin'd it.
Are you thinking of like Rumpelstiltskin is not the story you're thinking of.
No,
Fuck.
it's really not. I know. Rumpelstiltskin's the guy who weaves hay into gold, and then he's somebody's daughter or something.
I'm so embarrassed. I can't think of the one you're thinking of.
Oh, man. Rip Van Winkle. There we go.
Yes.
Van
Damn.
Winkle did.
Boom.
Yeah.
Figured it out.
He fell
today.
asleep on a foggy autumn night in, like, 1989 and woke up in, like, 2010. I was just like, oh, the video game industry needs saving. Which brings me to the last statement that he made. Apparently, David Cage still seemed to think that this is a nickel and dime industry. He made like in his collection of in his manifesto,
mad gibberings.
Yeah, I just want to interject real quick. A few days ago on Twitter, it had having nothing to do with this. I just completely made a random tweet that said, if you ever say something, never call it a manifesto. And I feel that is relevant here. Okay, go ahead.
That absolutely inspired me. I was remembering that you said that. That inspired me to actually say that I think that we can call David Cage's mad ramblings at this point in time a manifesto.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, he wants us to make games for all audiences. Because the Nintendo genre. He wants to change our paradigms. Okay, so you guys.
Which is like marketing speak for fucking nothing.
It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing.
You got to synergize, guys. Synergize.
Absolutely. He wants to create games that have something to say. The industry should be accessible. The games industry has never been more accessible. I remember these things called instruction booklets you used to have to read.
Hey, you know what? I was going through my Steam library the other day. You know what's really fucking inaccessible?
What?
Indigo fucking Prophecy.
Oh, it's incredibly inaccessible.
That game it's impossible to play on a PC.
It's pretty rough. It is pretty rough, yeah.
It's still what gets me is the hypocrisy. It'd be one thing if he made like Angry Birds and he was coming out here and saying, yeah, you got to make it easy to play. That gets people, invested. Like then it would sound like he's coming from a genuine place. This just sounds like he has like brain worms or something.
He's got two more things that I want to talk about. He talks a little bit about the games journalism industry, which doesn't really faze me at all because I think the games journalism industry knows that the games journalism industry has problems. But being self-aware of it doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything they can do about it. But
I don't care if he insults us. We're terrible. So yeah,
awful people. He says at one point in time that deciding to buy a game, whether or not you buy a game, is like a political vote.
That's too far.
I wish we lived in a videocracy where you would just elect games by voting with your dollars.
Now the thing is that I do really, really believe that gamers need to take a little bit more responsibility in terms of how they spend their money and what spending their money on things actually means.
Yeah, I'm a proponent of speaking with your dollar. I don't think that it is equivalent to political elections.
No, it's really
it's a bit too much.
It's way too much, is what it is. It's self-aggrandizing. It's ridiculously exaggerative.
Maybe that's what kind of rubs me about this, because I do agree with like the central premise here that we sometimes we should have games that are more mature that tackle important issues like that. I have no problem with that statement. It's just like the sweeping generalizations and the grandstanding. Right? Doesn't that, you know what I'm saying? Like he takes good ideas and makes you hate him in the way he says good ideas.
Yeah, I can see that. The one that absolutely blows my mind. This one, yeah, like this was sitting on a grenade kind of. Wait a minute. It was quote, "Finally we have a chance to become a mass market." End quote.
Yep. The last two Call of Duties first broke the record for like the largest entertainment launch ever, and then re-broke it with the next release.
But you misunderstand, Austin. He means that we should still have these numbers. It's just that they should be on the games that he's making.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone wishes they were more successful. You know, my smallest violin solo goes out to him, I guess.
It is, that is, I mean, you were talking about it earlier, that is right there, I think, absolute, clear, obvious evidence that he has no fucking clue, like, what's going on in the industry in which he works. We have a chance to become a mass market? Oh, yeah, I mean, man, we blew it.
When was the last time, I think, like, the last 3 years at least, video games have made more money than music, literature, film, anything else?
It is a huge money industry. The amount of people, like, who are required to work and therefore, like, pass money between hands and keep this thing called the economy going is so much larger. You know, like, I really don't like to diminish hard work that people do. But compared to making video games, making movies is like a piece of piss. You know, like, you can get yourself a camera, you can get yourself a writer, you can get a bunch of people to stand in front of that camera and read writing. And the same is true of video games, absolutely, that you can, like, just be a dude who knows some coding and, you know, like, maybe you're pretty good with your pixel brush. But when you start to get to those, like, upper echelons of the teams required to make games and the teams required to make, like, blockbuster-style movies, I challenge you to sit through the credits to, like, Mass Effect 3.
Dude, Battlefield 3, those credits went on for, like, a month and a half.
Yeah. And then I challenge you to sit through the credits of, I don't know, whatever movie Michael Bay is doing next.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a huge variation in the film industry, but I think generally what you're saying is you can point a camera at people doing stuff and call it a movie.
Yeah.
But a video game project, even at the lowest level, requires a lot of specialized knowledge.
And I'm making this absolutely clear. I'm not diminishing the amount of effort and the amount of talent that is required to make good movies and to make good video games, or even the hard work that you're willing to put in to even just do it, regardless of the state of the quality at the end of it. But yeah, that's more or less, more simply put, what I'm saying, Austin. Thank you. Speaking of the amount of effort it takes to make bad video games, hey, Austin, I hear you've been playing Aliens Colonial Marines recently. Austin had to go walk out somewhere. Leon. That was such a good segue, and Austin had to ruin it, man.
Yeah, it was awful.
Have you been playing?
I'm back, but I do want to hear. I want Leon to go first in case he has to duck out.
I don't have much to say. I've been playing Final Fantasy VI more. It is still good as I remember.
I'm getting that, like, remembering things. That,
yeah.
You know, like, this is great. I was worried that we ruined that for you the other week.
No, I still like it. I still enjoy it quite a bit. I haven't been able to play as much. I've been sort of preoccupied, but I will be getting back to it soon, within the next few days, and basically that's all I'm going to be talking about for the next few weeks, because that's what I'm going to be doing. I usually don't play more than one game at a time when I'm really invested in it, and I'm really invested in this. When I'm done with it, I will be talking about Skyward Sword finally, but until then, retro gaming with my favorite game.
Pop quiz, Leon. What's the best Final Fantasy boss theme?
That would have to be the final one, Kefka.
Dancing Mad? Yeah, that's a good one.
It's good.
I did an article about Nobuo Uematsu's scores, and that was where I was going. I even used it as the picture. And then I chickened out, and I went with Maybe I'm a Lion, because that's how I roll.
Okay.
Coward!
It tied in really good with the Deep Purple thing I had going on.
All right. You don't have to justify yourself to me, Yorsky.
Sometimes I do, though.
Well, I like it that you do. I'm just saying you don't have to.
It got really, like, romantic.
It makes me feel powerful.
Excuse me?
No, that you feel like you have to defend yourself to me sometimes. It makes me feel that I have power.
We have a weird dynamic.
I think that's pretty much clear to anybody actually who's listened this far into the episode.
I feel so bad for any Catholics who came on here.
I made it clear I wasn't going after the Catholic faith.
Okay.
I have my own personal feelings about it, but I got no reason to step on somebody else's cupcake if it's doing okay for them. It's only if that cupcake interferes with my beef jerky.
See, you're saying words, but you know they don't mean anything, right?
I'm trying my hardest to, coin another idiom.
It's tough.
It's very difficult.
That's more difficult than an alligator eating a crocodile on Sunday. You know what? I can't do it either.
What do you mean either, Leon? Either? Are you insinuating that I can't coin an idiom? God, guys.
Speaking of idioms, I was thinking, because when I was reading that David Cage article, my first thought was, man, David Cage should eat a bag of dicks. And then I thought about it, I was like, what? Who came up with that phrase, eat a bag of dicks? Like,
this sounds like a Louis C.K. routine, but yeah, I mean, that I would like to meet the first person who thought of that.
Like, were they specially commissioned dicks just for this eating, or were they, like, chopped off of people? Because it sounds like they got the worst end of the stick, than the guy who has to eat the dicks.
It sounds like whoever came up with it first was like, man, you can eat a dick. No, what you did to me was even worse than that. You can eat, like, 3 or 4 dicks, but you have to carry them in something, like, because obviously...
You'd have to go into a location, retrieve these dicks, find an adequate way of carrying them out so you could properly sit down and have a dick-based meal. Would you like paper or plastic with that?
Dick-based meal is so far the contender for the title, by the way.
I can't put dick in the title. Polly will have my ass.
You just D******. What's the matter with you?
Okay. See, it's funny that you said paper or plastic, because whenever I hear the phrase, eat a bag of dicks, I imagine, like, a burlap sack.
I imagine paper. I think paper when I think bag of dicks. I think, like, crumpled, like you would expect there to be, like, malt liquor inside it. Like, this paper bag has seen way better days, and being like, what's in there? Oh, it's a bag of dicks.
I couldn't even start the next sentence. Seriously though, like, what is the part of the punishment that they are dicks? Is it? Are you uncomfortable with the organ, or is it just like they're chewy and hard to eat?
I feel like that it's just too many of them. I mean, you have to make kind of a commitment to it. I mean, sometimes, you wake up and you're like, you know what, I could eat one dick today.
But it is true. Dicks go off pretty quickly, and if you've got a whole bag of them, you pretty much have to get through it by the end of the day, or else you got a bunch of stale dicks.
Sometimes when I have a bag of dicks and I eat only half, I feel like I'm sort of a pig. But if I eat the whole bag of dicks, I feel like I'm the winner.
I win a bag of dicks.
Isn't dick like a food in Britain? So maybe this whole conversation actually didn't make any sense.
Well, spotted dick is a food. Yeah.
Is there non-spotted dick?
I'm not sure if there's non-spotted dick. Is spotless dick?
I assume that spotted was the flavor.
I'm gonna go ahead and Google spotless dick here.
I'm beating it to you. I'm beating you to it because I'm doing the exact same thing.
Don't beat the spotless dick.
Oh my God, it is.
It's pudding. Oh, okay. I didn't even know what it was. I just know that it was funny. That's all I knew about spotted dick until this very second.
We all learned something. We grew as people.
You don't want to know the rest of the things that show up.
Wait a minute, Johnny. It says here on Wikipedia that it's also popular in Canada. Is it?
Spotless dick?
Spotted dick.
No, spotted dick or spotless?
Yeah. I'm talking about spotted dick. I've never actually...
Can get it in Canada. There's some, there's some... ties to the British monarchy are, I think, certainly stronger in Canada than they are in Britain, but it's not nearly as popular here, I would say, than it is in Britain. So did you Google spotted dick?
I Googled spotted dick because I wanted to...
I Googled spotless dick because I was curious if, and yeah, apparently you can get spotless dick as well, unless that's like a horrible...
I'm trying to sabotage this Wikipedia page because I'm so juvenile. I did. Go to Spotted Dick at Wikipedia right now, and then read the last line.
Oh, God, Leon.
I'm going to screen capture that.
I
Hold on.
already did.
Oh, good.
For those who are listening to this the next day, because it'll be gone in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I wrote Ian Bag of Dicks.
You should have, like, the BT podcast was here.
Because that's just what we want. We want to draw attention to ourselves on Wikipedia.
Well, we could just say it wasn't us. They won't know.
Oh, man.
We're not good people.
That was a good moment. I feel happy that I got out of bed today now because of that.
We just made that shit worth it.
Yeah. That was a moment. That was a moment that I will hold close to my heart forever.
So do we have anything to talk about? I have no idea.
Speaking of dicks, Austin, tell me about
Hey, what?
Said, speaking of dicks, Austin, tell me about Gearbox Software. I hear you've been playing one of their games.
I was hoping we could record this yesterday, so I would still be under a non-disclosure agreement, so I couldn't talk about Aliens Colonial Marines, but now that it is out and my review is out,
You have to do it.
can't put it off. That game is not good.
No.
It is not at all good, and I went into some detail in my review. I held a little bit back because I didn't want to seem like I was basically just, going off on it. You gotta retain at least a veneer of professionalism, but fuck that game. As I said in the review, it's not a good Aliens game. It's disrespectful to the source material. It has no idea what to do with the xenomorphs. Even if it was just judged on the merits of it being a first-person shooter, completely divorced from the license, no expectations, it is a subpar shooter. It's basically like a shitty mod of it feels like an early Source Engine mod.
Yeah.
You know me, Johnny. I am not a graphics whore, but this game looks disgusting.
It looks pretty bad.
It is. I'm playing on the PS3, which apparently is a little bit inferior to the PC version, so maybe your eyes weren't quite as damaged as mine.
No, the models are terrible. The modeling is awful. Apparently the only thing that the PC version has is that the textures are...
Yeah.
And even then,
The textures are repulsive on the PS3 version. The funniest thing, on my review, someone put a link to a GIF from the game and said, "Oh my god, look at this glitch. Look how funny this is." It's not a glitch, guys. That's the actual intended walk cycle of that xenomorph.
Yeah. I had a chance to play about an hour of it last night after we concluded that we weren't podcasting yesterday. Taylor Hoyt and I... Man,
I tried to warn you. I was like, Johnny, don't.
I was already in, man. I had already pre-ordered it. I was skeptical that it was going to be good because I have my reservations about Gearbox as a studio. I really do.
Well, we'll talk about Gearbox's questionable involvement in a second, but go on.
Yeah, but as more and more media started coming out, being released, trailers and screenshots and interviews and people talking about it, I just, the dread in my stomach, the calcified dread in the pit of my stomach got larger and larger and larger. And until very literally the day beforehand, the day before it was released, I had written it off. I'm like, I'm not going to enjoy this game. I'm not going to do it.
When I popped it into the console, I said, worst case scenario, it'll be a mediocre shooter with a cool coat of alien paint. That's the worst that could happen, right?
Oh, how far we fall.
Here's the thing. I think I was talking about this with Sean, one of the writers for the site, a while ago. We were talking about the reviewing scale, the numbers we assign games, and I was saying it seems like we as a culture don't give out really mean scores anymore. It seems like everything is 7 to 10. And he was saying that it's because companies don't release broken-ass games anymore.
Oh, yes, they do.
Well, apparently, because this game, it's unfinished.
How can it, and this is what boggles my mind. 6 years. This thing was, like, announced back in 2006.
Yeah.
6 fucking years. And
Well, that's
not done yet.
well. I mean,
How
I think
many times do you think they, like, wiped the board clean and tried to start over again?
Well,
Because
yeah,
they must have.
with the development cycle that long, you have to assume that they realized something was fundamentally wrong with the direction they were going.
This is the funny thing, too, is that this is the version that they thought was the best.
I think this is the version they thought was salvageable. Like, they can't have thought this was acceptable. They were just like, there's no way we can put any more money into this. It's just a cost evaluation. You say, here's how much money we think we can make. Here's how much it would cost to make the game good. Run those numbers. Release it now. I ain't even mad, Sega. Like, what else were you gonna do? 6 more years? Like, no. I think you should have released it at a $30 price point and been like, lol, arcade action, yo.
I don't know how you fuck it up. I don't know how you do.
But by trying to fit a very specific mythos with a very, very specific creature in a style with a modern military first-person shooter, it doesn't work. You can't throw hundreds of these things at the player and expect them to still be scary. They're not a threat. It breaks canon for them to be so fucking stupid that they just flop out of the air vents and walk towards you. If they walk, sometimes they just get stuck in shit. I usually don't get this upset. Like, I'm like genuinely pretty upset about having had to sit through this game.
The thing that gets me the most was the grandstanding before release. And I'm not talking about the grandstanding like a week before release or anything like that. I'm talking like on a year-by-year basis. Like, I'm talking, last year, the year before, and things like that. Like, I remember last year's E3 when Randy Pitchford did the walkthrough of the Colonial Marines footage. And he was so stoked. He was like, yeah, man, like, we get this. This is, like, my bread and butter. I fucking love the Aliens movies, dude. They're so awesome. No, this is going to be so fantastic. You guys won't even believe it. You're going to shit your pants and not even know it.
Okay, first, none of that press stuff is in the game. None of the demos, none of those early cinematics or anything. The entire sections of those games are not of the game that were shown to the press.
Yeah.
Are not in the final product at all. I talked to the team at E3 2011. I was there, and they were genuinely excited. Like this, I don't think this was a ruse. I feel that they thought they could pull it off. But what has come out recently? I mean, at DICE, when Randy Pitchford gave his talk, he explained the development of Colonial Marines. He said if you take out the pre-development planning stage, Gearbox did less than half of the work on this game. There was at least 4 studios involved, none of which have good track records. There's no way this could have succeeded, and I think someone knew it somewhere across the line. They realized this was fucked up, and they're like, just round off all the edges and let's push it out the door and forget it ever happened. They couldn't save it.
But it all ends up begging the question: what the fuck were they thinking? What were they thinking? This was a gold mine just waiting for someone to fucking plunder it.
Yeah, but no, there's no way that the suits, right, the 20th Century Fox or whoever at Sega was in charge of the purse strings, they would not have greenlit a proper Alien game. They would not have let them make the Aliens game that we deserve, which is, I would imagine, closer to Amnesia: The Dark Descent than Call of Duty.
Yeah, you'd be right about that. It would have to have like an excellent Aliens game would have to have high character. So like characters that you could relate to, that you knew by name, that didn't just have fucking like HUD names floating over them, being like, oh yeah, O'Neill, that's the guy I have to look out for.
The only name I remember from Colonial Marines is Bella, and that's only because it reminded me of Twilight every time.
So yeah, you'd have to have like good scenes between the characters, because say what you will about it, Aliens as a movie had like a lot of fucking character.
Dude, Vasquez?
Yeah.
Fucking A.
You can to this day just be like, fucking game over, man, game over, and like a secondary character in a science fiction movie that was released like fucking 23, 24 years ago or something like that. People were like, Hudson.
Yeah, no, all of the minor characters are great in Aliens.
Yeah.
speaking of fucking Hudson, you will fucking flip when you get to the plot twist of Colonial Marines. I have not seen... I've seen better fan fiction. Sweet baby Jesus.
I have, some suspicions about what it is, but we'll see. But, yeah, and I mean, think about exactly, like, how much action is actually in the Aliens movie. Because, I mean, you can talk about the mood between, like, the original Alien and Aliens and Alien 3 and even Alien Resurrection. They all have very, very distinct moods, But in Aliens specifically, the action scenes, the Marines go in,
they get slaughtered.
and then there's another action scene when the power gets cut.
Yeah, the desperate last stand. None of this is gung-ho, That's the thing, though. The movie sets up these characters as, like, badasses, and then shows them being destroyed.
Yeah.
Game sets up these badasses, and then they just badass around.
I was absolutely disgusted with the amount of melee combat that goes on.
It's pretty fucking hilarious, actually, to see the AI soldiers just running around and pistol whipping the xenomorphs.
It is like so disrespectful to the canon to be like, yeah, I mean, I know he bleeds acid, and I know he's got these like super sharp fucking claws and teeth and things like that, but I'm just gonna punch you in the face a couple of times, and he's dead. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm even on the harder difficulties, the xenomorphs are pretty fucking fragile. One of the like melee kills is you stick your gun in its mouth and blow its head out, and it's like your arm would be melted.
Yeah.
Don't they know about acid breath? I mean, acid spit.
There's like some acid effects when you shoot them, but it doesn't seem like it hurts you. You can rub your body all over their corpses for all the games.
I remember that Hicks got like a little bit on his armor, and that was enough to put him in like swaddled in bandages at the end of the movie because it was just.
In the first Alien, it burned through like 6 layers of steel floor.
Yeah, in Alien Resurrection, that's how they escaped. One of them killed the other, and its blood soaked the floor, and that's how the other one can get through.
Yeah, in Colonial Marines, it might as well be Kool-Aid.
Oh.
Except for here it's already a meme, guys. There is a specific kind of xenomorph in the game. They're called boilers, I believe. And if you haven't seen the GIF, you should. They walk stupid. Like there's no other. It's the Ministry of Silly Walks from Monty Python.
Oh.
And they are like one of the acid specialists because there's the Spitter, which is creatively named, I imagine, as a homage/reference to the Left 4 Dead zombie. But they spit acid. The boilers explode acid. But the way they walk is so goofy that people thought it was a glitch. It's literally how they walk in the game.
I'm Googling it right now.
While you're Googling it, I just want to say one thing about Alien Resurrection. The greatest thing about Alien Resurrection is that it's basically here's what's happening in the early part of the movie. Brad Dourif is playing a scientist studying the aliens. Brad Dourif played Chucky. The aliens are also movie monsters from the 80s, so it's basically Chucky versus aliens.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
I feel like every time I watch that movie, I'm like, this is Chucky versus aliens. Why is no one else noticing that this is Chucky versus aliens? But anyway, go ahead with your thing.
What do you think about the third movie?
I quite liked it. I got to admit, I did.
Here's the thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It brought Alien, the Alien mythos back from being a suspense movie with high action scenes to one being of real tension. I feel that Alien 3 was closer to the spirit of the original than Aliens was.
That's what I feel.
You're stuck in the middle of nowhere. You don't have any weapons to speak of. You've got no way out, really. And add on top of that as well, add the fact that you're dealing with a hostile indigenous populace as well. They're all psychopathically violent criminals. My God, that's horrific.
Yeah, and the thing is, the original.
No, sorry, I'm watching the boiler animation. That's horrific.
Oh, okay.
Continue, please.
The original Alien. I mean, you get this feel of the universe, and it's just so bleak. And in the second one, there's just a little bit more levity to it. But then Alien 3 is back, and it's like everyone is a rapist in an apocalyptic cult in a prison, and the kid died, and everyone's dead except Ripley, and she's been space raped, and she has an alien in her, and everything that can possibly be wrong in the universe is wrong on this tiny rock in the world. And it's terribly bleak, and I know a lot of people were, maybe didn't like that, but that's the tone of the first film. I feel like Alien 3 in atmosphere is more a direct sequel.
And even aliens managed a subtlety to it about how long you go without actually there being any action, and even after the fact that the action starts, they're really miserly with the way that they reveal the aliens.
I'm sorry, I'm watching the thing.
I sent Leon, for people listening, I sent Leon the gif of the goddamn boiler. What is your impression of that? That is not a glitch. That's how they walk.
Oh, what? Why? What is going? What is going on?
I want to stress to you that nothing in that screenshot is happening in a way that is not intended.
Why is it? I don't. But why is the alien not even attacking the?
Because they're blind.
Oh.
That's the mandatory stealth segment that all first-person shooters need. You fall into the sewers, and there are these blind aliens, and they just wander around like that, and you're supposed to, when they come near, you stop moving. When they walk away, you go. It is the most token stealth segment. Like, even if they didn't have the goofy-ass walking aliens, that would be a shitty section. But on top of that, I think we'll remember that. I think it'll become infamous.
Oh, that's too bad.
We totally just strove whatever Johnny was saying.
No, it's fine. All I meant was that, like, all I was saying is that even Aliens, like the most action-centric of the four canon Alien movies, banks on subtlety. How like, the action, there's really not a whole lot of action. And when the action
it's just deceptive in the way it employs its action.
Yeah, and even when the action does show up, they play the alien card really sparingly.
To good effect, and Colonial Marines throws them at you by the dozens in every room in broad daylight, and it sucks. Fuck it.
Yeah, there's no subtlety in it. Zero. Zilch. It's just like, it could be a game about fucking anything. It could be a serious Sam game. Reskin everything, and I wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was getting at when I said it seems like a mod. Like they skinned Aliens over some other generic shooter.
On
really.
that note, there's apparently supposed to be a Killing Floor mod that adds aliens that's pretty good.
Actually, if we can transition, what playing Colonial Marines did for me, like internally, was make me appreciate other recent sci-fi shooters I played. Like as I was sitting there, I was like, you know what? Halo 4 wasn't that bad. I was like, Dead Space 3? Yeah. Pretty good. Like, it does.
I still find it hard to believe that, like, that the genre peaked. In my opinion, at least, anyways. Aliens vs. Predator 2 by Monolith was like the best entry in the Alien shooter franchise.
I've played it and the recent Rebellion one, and I liked them. Mm-hmm. I don't think they're good.
No, the Monolith one has aged badly, unfortunately. It has. AVP2 has aged badly. Yeah. I think that the 2010 one, the Rebellion one, is inherently a worse game, because it doesn't really do anything new. It almost, like, tit for tat borrows the entire plot.
Yeah, the campaign is really not the draw of those games. Like, those ones in the multiplayer made you feel like an alien.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Have you played the multiplayer of Colonial Marines?
No.
Oh, geez.
Well, I mean, I played the cooperative, but I know that it's like third person for the aliens and just like and having an unlock system too. Oh, great!
Oh, it's straight Call of Duty. Have you noticed that you're like walking down a dark corridor and it's just like rank up?
Like what the fuck? Like how dissonant is this when you're like, okay, guys, we're in a spaceship in the middle of deep space and there are these evil things that are hunting us. We've got to be on our toes and we're gonna try and get into this as much as rank up.
With that said, the multiplayer is fun if you get to be the Marines, because I just go apeshit with a flamethrower on the poor suckers who have to be the Xenomorphs.
But dude, that's not good enough. I mean, everybody should want to be the aliens.
No, I know. I mean, I would be lying if I said I didn't have any fun with the multiplayer, because I did, but it was in spite of it, perhaps. So, yeah, I played that this week. I also played Dead Space 3. My review's up for that. Do you care about Dead Space 3?
Not really.
I hear it's pretty good or something.
It's a good shooter. It's not scary, and it does some weird things with the Dead Space universe that I'm not enthused about, but it's not a bad game at all by any stretch of the imagination.
I think the Penny Arcade comic pretty much says it all.
Yeah, there are other religions, guys.
Yeah.
I also finished Ace Attorney, but strangely, in my weird world full of coincidences, Video Games Awesome just posted a playthrough of the part that I just finished, so there's that. If you want to go watch that instead of listening to me talk about it.
That's craziness.
It's weird. The chances of that are astronomical.
They live in my town, Video Games Awesome.
You should go ding dong ditch their asses.
You guys are more popular on BT than us. Ding dong. Run away. I don't think they know why I exist, so who cares?
I assume no one knows that we exist.
Yeah,
but
that's more or less, I think.
It's safer for us that way.
Probably.
Fly under the radar.
Probably.
I know I've been playing something else, but I can't for the life of me think of anything. Aliens has just completely destroyed everything that I held dear.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry for that, Austin.
What have you been playing, Johnny?
Well, I mean, as you may know, at this point in time, I have played a little bit of Aliens Colonial Marines.
We're going to go to, therapy after this?
Probably. But, no, I recorded, I think, my feelings on the subject. This week, though, I got a lot more Sleeping Dogs in, because I was trying to get it out of the way before Colonial Marines came around, because I guess some part of me still hoped. A very small, quiet part of me. And I actually got to play Rayman Origins as well.
Oh, that's the other game I was playing.
You were playing Rayman Origins too?
Yeah, I was. Oh my god, that game's so fucking good.
It's so good.
Dude, I was getting mad at how good the game was. I'm like, why aren't other games this good?
It is.
I was sitting there, I was fuming.
Like the artwork, the level design, the music, everything. Top to bottom, it is it's almost like the definitive platformer for this generation of video games.
Yeah.
It's
I
so
would have said Super Meat Boy up until I played Rayman Origins. It fucking caught Mario flat-footed. There's no comparison between the new Super Mario Brothers series and Rayman Origins.
Yeah. And I've been playing it through with my brother. That's one of the reasons why it's been so long since I've it's been ages since I played Rayman Origins. But he came over the other day and he got an Xbox 360 controller for Windows for Christmas. So we were like, let's plug our Xbox 360 controllers in and play some Rayman Origins, and it was good. Yay.
One thing I will say about Rayman Origins, because I know last week I was talking about Little Big Planet and how I feel like it should be more. It should be a huge event. We should all be super into Little Big Planet.
Yeah.
What Rayman Origins does, I think, that makes it more satisfying is it's so hard to quantify. It's the feel of it. The tactile sensation of playing the game is more rewarding. That makes no sense. I hear the words.
No, it seems to be. I completely agree with you. It's it is a combination of all things. Overall, it is just an incredibly well-crafted title.
We say things like this game has tight controls. What does that mean? I don't know. It's a thing we say.
It really just responsiveness. I know.
Rayman Origin has tight controls. That's all I can say. It feels good.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Little Big Planet has way more content, but the jump arc just isn't quite as satisfying as Rayman's. That seems so it's so petty.
No, it's true. It's true though. There are certain qualities to a game that we can't necessarily exactly pick out what makes us feel good to them. Or, what makes it feel good to us, excuse me.
I'm leaving that in because that was great.
No, that's fine. We can't. We have trouble explaining to ourselves what it is that feels so good about it. And I mean, it's fair to admit that there's a certain insubstantial quality to actually sitting down and playing some games. We need to be honest with ourselves that a lot of the things that we like about certain games or certain media is it's almost unmeasurable. Why do we like horror movies? By all logic, there should be absolutely no good reason why we like to sit down and fucking scare ourselves stupid. But a lot of us do. You know? There's an ethereal quality sometimes to just, like, having a well-made game that when you press the jump button or when you press the sprint button or what have you, that it just works the way you wanted it to work, and it's like, yeah, that feels right.
To bring it back, because it's the last thing I'll say on the subject, firing a gun in Aliens Colonial Marines feels so... like, it feels like a non-event.
It feels tinny.
Yeah. Like, there's a satisfying, like, kick and crunch to a good shooter where, like, I just blew that guy's head off.
I've always loved the guns that id Software makes. You know, say what you will about Rage, I loved the way shooting the guns felt.
Yeah, the AI in Rage is also notable, I would say.
Yeah.
But otherwise, a forgettable game. But the nitty gritty of the shooting felt right. Aliens feels like it's like Nerf.
Yeah, rapid fire Nerf.
Yeah. So, geez, we went on long today. Did you play anything else, Johnny?
Not really. You know, I mean, I don't feel like I have any need to talk anymore about Sleeping Dogs. I'm liking how they're still kind of opening new things up. I guess I've got about 26 hours in the game at this point in time.
Nice.
And there's, you know, like all these new activities that still keep cropping up, like, you know, trying to locate people through cell phone triangulation. So you have to, like, drive to certain parts of the city to, like, you know, get to a point. And then you need to play this, like, little mini game to be like, okay, it could be one of these people. So you got to switch to another tower, and it's like, oh, it could be one of these people. And then it like, you have to find the one person that's constant in all three towers. So then you find them and you drive there. You know, and like, yeah, you know, gambling games are opening up. Like, I'm quite pleased with how it's fleshing itself out as a game as I continue to play it. It's doing it really well, so I'm enjoying it. But no, I didn't get a chance to get to anything else. I still haven't finished the cave or gone back to Antechamber. Although, yeah, correction. Somebody mentioned on the last podcast that the time limit on Antechamber is actually more of a suggested, like, hey, if you can solve it in 90 minutes, you're awesome. So it.
I love it when you're wrong and then they call you out.
Yeah, no, I'm with it as well.
Oh,
that's
no,
how we develop as people.
I'm also playing Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance for review.
Yeah.
And great swaths of that are not under non-disclosure agreement, so I can say that it is very good.
Really?
It's very good. The parts I have played that I am allowed to talk about are very good.
Can you talk about the Revengeance?
He revenges some shit.
Yeah, really, you do. There's a lot of revengeancing.
Some people do some stuff to him, and then he's like, I'm going to revenge that.
Do they then come back later, and do you have to revenge?
You revenge the shit out of some motherfuckers.
Pretty awesome.
If you're on the fence, and you buy games new, that I don't say pre-order things very often because, you know, Steam sales, whatever. But you know, if you want, it's the thing.
Dude.
So, yeah.
I trust your tastes, Austin. I may have to revengeance.
I will say that it's one of probably the best games released of the year so far. I'm going to say Ni no Kuni and Fire Emblem so far are the front runners for the best games released in the 2 months that we've experienced. Revengeance is going to join that short list. I assume, unless something happens and it swerves.
Fantastic.
So that's what's happening in video games right now.
Yeah. Oh, I donated to a couple of Kickstarters this week.
Oh, fuck you and Kickstarter. I'm
so
tired.
No, there's one that I'm actually really interested in called Project Awakened.
Yeah, superhero one.
Yeah, the superhero one.
That was the leaked video for that was one of like my earliest news posts on Blistered Thumbs.
Yeah,
like two years ago.
It was originally Hero, I think it was supposed to be called.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and there, you know, I had to look at Project Awakened's Kickstarter, and I was like, I'm in. So.
Kickstarter's still a thing.
It is. Yeah, it continues to be a thing, too. I keep waiting for it to, like, finish.
Just wrap it up, pack it in, go home?
Yeah, you know, to just be like, okay, I don't think there are any other projects that I'm really interested in. I think everybody's tapped out this whole crowdfunding thing. And then some dude's like, take a look at this. And I'm like, oh, awesome. So
I'm tired.
Yeah.
Me too.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's all right. Why don't
Johnny,
you just go
say
sleep? And
say some blasphemous stuff about the Pope so we can go to bed.
he was so rock and roll. He was like the Bruce Springsteen of popes.
I'm gonna have to use the Space Pope as the title card.
Space Pope.
Which one? The Futurama one or the Final Fantasy 15 one?
Both.
Battle of the Space Popes?
Oh,
geez.
yeah, that's the title. I gotta go, but yeah.
Bye, Leon.
Good night.